Hello everybody, thank you for joining me on my latest YouTube video. Beatle Dave calling to you from Derby in the UK. For this video I thought we'd take a look at some of the artists that were signed to Apple Records other than the Beatles. You know, Apple Records did have quite a good roster of artists. For this we're just going to look at some of the LPs I've got. But I must make this clear from the beginning, this is not a complete Apple Records LP discography. It's just some of the records that I've got, so I don't want people to say, well, you forgot this and you forgot that. I'm just showing you the ones that I've got in my collection. You know, Apple Records started in 1968 and basically went on to around 1973, although, you know, the Beatles stuff, solo stuff was, you know, released up until 1976, I think it was, before the 90s when they gained control of the rights and everything. So these aren't in any order. So they're not like how they was released, it's just the ones that I've got at my shelf in there. So the first one is James Taylor, debut LP, simply called James Taylor. Two versions of this. This is the one that's got the orange or the yellow writing, and then there's a version that's got black writing, which I will show you in a minute. Gatefold sleeve. Again, very, very slick, flimsy construction where you have to get the record out to the side here. This is a mono. I think it's mono. No, it isn't. I'm telling you a lie. I think this is actually stereo. Just bear with 1 sec. I will get the record out, and we should have a look. Yeah, this is stereo. The way you can tell if it's stereo or mono, if it's stereo, it's Sapcore, and if it's mono, it's Apcore on the UK versions. So this is James Taylor's debut album from 1968, and this is Sapcore 3. Lovely album. He did do a couple of singles on Apple as well. The biggest hit on this, well, it wasn't really a hit, I suppose, but it did chart, is bear with 1 minute. Horrible these are, trying to get them in the side like that. Was don't think it's on this one actually. Carolina on My Mind is what he's probably best known for on Apple. The gatefold does come out like that, so you get a nice photo of James Taylor. This was produced by Peter Asher, who went on to actually manage James Taylor and eventually took him to Warner Brothers, didn't he? Something's Wrong. It starts off with Something in the Way She Moves, which probably inspired George to write something. So the lyrics on here are Don't Talk Now. Sorry, the songs on here. Side one, Don't Talk Now, Something's Wrong, Knocking Around the Zoo, Sunshine, Sunshine, Taking It In, Something in the Way She Moves. Then you've got side two, Carolina on My Mind, so it is on here, sorry. Then you've got Brighten Your Night with My Day, Night Owl, Rainy Day Man, and Circles Round the Sun. And then the last track is The Blues is Just a Bad Dream. I think Paul McCartney played bass on a couple of songs on this, and I think Ringo did some of the drumming as well. I'm not sure if George was involved or not. Actually quite a nice album. It's nice to listen to. Singer-songwriter sort of thing, which James Taylor, you know, is famous for, isn't he? Then we've got this version, which is exactly the same. So this is Sapcore as well, but this time it's in black lighting. And that one cost me £10 many years ago from my local record shop, which is BPM Records in Derby. Lovely sounding record. I think the black one, this one, is slightly harder to get than that version with the orange or the yellow writing on the front. So that's the first one, James Taylor. Like I say, lovely album. If you haven't got it, it's probably one worth checking out. Nothing particularly spectacular in one way, but you can sort of hear the fragments of the songs and the ideas that he took to Warner Brothers, where he became a big star. Like I say, it wasn't exactly a flop on Apple, but it wasn't really very successful, if that makes sense. Not in the UK anyway. I don't know about in America and places like that. Next up, we've got Mary Hopkin, Postcard. This was produced by Paul McCartney, and a lot of the songs on here were actually written by Donovan. Now, for saying this was released in early 1969, the biggest hit that she had up to that time, those were the days attached on this LP. You've got Lord of the Reedy River, Happiness Runs, Love is the Sweetest Thing, yes, the really, really old song. Then there's a song in Welsh, the Honeymoon Song, the Puppy Song, Inchworm, 2 and 2 are 4, 4 and 4 are 8, Voyage to the Moon, Lullaby of Leaves, Young Love, again, a really, really old song, Someone to Watch Over Me, Prince and Avion, The Game, and Show Business, and that is There's No Business Like Show Business. And this is mono, this one, so this is Apcore 5. Probably one of the easiest non-Beatles Apple releases to get. It was a big hit in its day, and Mary Hopkin and another band, Badfinger, were probably Apple's best signings as in terms of record sales in the UK. You know, it's quite amazing in some ways, you know, the sort of bands that wanted to be on Apple and never were. Fleetwood Mac wanted to be on Apple. David Bowie wanted to be on Apple at one time in his early years. Next up, we've got Under the Jasmine Tree, and this is by the Modern Jazz Quartet. I'm not going to bother getting every record out because, you know, it is all on the standard UK Apple labels. This is Sapcore 4, this one is. Sorry, Sapcore 4, so this is stereo. This is what I say about Apple, it had such a strange variety of music on it. It wasn't all just like rock or pop. I mean, this is basically a jazz album. So side 1 is The Blue Necklace, followed by Three Little Fingers, parts 1, 2 and 3. And then side 2 is Exposure, followed by The Jasmine Tree. Quite a hard record to come by in the UK. Don't think they'd get away with that sleeve nowadays, would they? I've only just actually realised what that is. It is nice to listen to. It's not a record that you will probably play every day or every week. It's a record that you'll probably play once or twice a year, in all honesty. But it is nice to have in your Apple collection. Musicianship and everything is absolutely fantastic. They'd recorded albums before they went on Apple, and they recorded albums after they've been on Apple. So that's it. They did do another album as well, the Modern Jazz Quartet, which is this one, Space. I will get this one out. Bear with 1 sec, because I think this one's a gatefold. This one is a gatefold, so you get the Apple logo there. Again, the flimsy design where you have to get the record out of here. Which you'd have thought the Beatles would have, you know, realised how bad Beatles for Sale was, and, you know, how flimsy that construction was. However, this is actually in quite nice condition. So this is Space by the Modern Jazz Quartet. So side 1 is Visitors from Venus, Visitors from Mars, Here's That Rainy Day. Side 2, Dilemma, and Andy Kay from Concerto di something or other. And it was produced by John Lewis, and it's supervised by Peter Asher. So again, Peter Asher had something to do with this. It's not in the original sleeve, obviously, because this is an MFP sleeve. And this one is Sapcore 10. 1968, I think it says on there. Sorry, 1969. Again, very nice to have in your collection. But how many times you'd ever play it, I don't know. I do play these occasionally. But I do mean it is occasionally. I think I've had these best part of 15 years, and I bet you I've played them a handful of times each. Nice relaxing music. You know, if you've had a crap day at work, they are nice to listen to in that sort of sense. Like I say, musicianship and everything is brilliant on them. Is it essential for you to have it in your Beatles collection? Probably not. Is it essential to have in the Apple collection? Then yeah. So yeah, so far all these have been UK copies. This next artist was quite a big star in his own right. He did, you know, a few recordings for Apple. Then I think he went to A&M and Motown and places like that. He'd actually worked with the Beatles as well. And it's Billy Preston. That's the way God plans it. Sorry, that's the way God planned it. Again, this is an original UK copy. This is Sapcore 9. And this was actually produced by George Harrison, although some of the songs were produced by Wayne Chandler. Because I think he was on, if I remember right, he was actually had a contract with Capitol Records or something like that, and Apple had to buy his contract out, but it made so many recordings for Capitol, so they had to buy them as well and end up on this album. So you've got Do What You Want, which is written by Billy Preston. I Want to Thank You, again written by Billy Preston. Everything's Alright, that's written by Billy Preston and Doris Troy. She Belongs to Me, Bob Dylan. It Doesn't Matter, written by Billy Preston. Morning Star, W.C. Hardy, it says on here. Side 2 is Hey Brother, again written by Billy Preston. What About You, again written by Billy Preston. Let Us All Get Together Now, that's Preston Troy, Doris Troy. This Is It, Preston Troy. Keep It to Yourself, Preston. That's the Way God Planned It, parts 1 and 2, Billy Preston. Brilliant album. Very sort of soul-y, Motown-y in places. A bit like religious in other places. Fantastic organ player. Very, very talented musician. That's the back. And that is the front. I think in America you had a slightly different front cover to this, didn't you? I think this one did sell in the UK, but not in great quantities as such. I think this has actually got the original inner sleeve as well, which isn't in that good a condition, to be honest. So that is side 1. And then that is side 2. Again, George plays on it. I think Ringo plays on it. I think Eric Clapton plays on a couple of tracks on this, if I remember rightly. Don't think Paul had anything to do with it, but I could be wrong. But a lovely album. If you ever see any of these and they're not talking stupid money, I'd advise you to get them, because these will only go up in value. I mean, I think I paid £10 for that years ago. Last time I went to Nottingham, they'd got one of these in one of the record shops, and I think they wanted £55 for original, because this was re-released in 1996, I think, as a double LP. So you got the LP and then you got like a additional 12-inch sort of like single with a few tracks on it, and they go for a lot of money as well. So that's Billy Preston. That's the Way God Planned It. Again, if you like your gospel music and your soul music, it is a nice record to have. Do you need it in a Beatles collection? Probably not. I would say this is one that if you like the Beatles and you like George Harrison and things like that, and you like Billy Preston, then it is one that you've got to have. Brilliant vocalist, actually, Billy Preston. Then this one is a reissue. This is a reissue. I think this was from last year, if I remember rightly. And this is Encouraging Words by Billy Preston. To celebrate Billy Preston's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, this highly regarded 1970 album, co-produced by Billy Preston and George Harrison, is available on vinyl for a limited period, it says there. So the songs on here is Right Now, Little Girl, Use What You've Got, My Sweet Lord. Yeah, he actually recorded My Sweet Lord before George, believe it or not. Let the Music Play, The Same Thing Again, I've Got a Feeling, the Beatles song, Sing One for the Lord, When You Are Mine, I Don't Want You to Pretend, Encouraging Words, All Things Must Pass, there's a version of that, You've Been Acting Strange, produced by George Harrison and Billy Preston. And I'm not sure if you can still get this or not. I know it did have a very, very limited release in the UK. Not sure about the rest of the world. That's the black in it came in. So this has got the international number on it because it's not a British pressing as such. Dark Apple labels. That's the only thing with these, you can't really see them. Very, very nice record to listen to. Really is a nice record to listen to. And if you've got That's the Way God Planned It, then you should really have this one as well. I'm sorry if this is going on for a bit, but I just thought we'd have a quick look. This video was actually inspired by Beatle Brad. He did one last week, Other Artists on Apple or something. So again, just what was in his collection, not a full discography. This is not a full discography. This is not everything that was ever released on Apple Records. Now we've got, excuse me, Jackie Lomax. Is This What You Want? Very, very, very underrated singer. Very, very underrated songwriter. Very, very, extremely underrated album. This should have been a massive hit. Should have really been a massive hit. You've got George on it, you've got Ringo on it, you've got Paul on it. I think even John's on it on backing vocals somewhere. Eric Clapton's on it, Billy Preston's on it. Like I say, it should have been a fantastic hit. Unfortunately, this is an American copy, because British copies are actually as rare as rocking horse teeth. So it's ST3354, and even to get American copies, you will be talking stupid money. You know, it should have been a really, really big hit. That's all I'll say. The musicianship on it is fantastic. The production's fantastic. It's produced by George Harrison, isn't it? I think this. Yeah, George Harrison. Little Yellow Pills, Take My Word, The Eagle Laughing at You, Baby You're a Lover, You've Got Me Thinking, I Just Don't Know, Speak to Me, New Day, which was a single I think, Sunset, Sour Milk Sea, which was written especially filmed by George Harrison. Fantastic song, was released as a single, got nowhere in the UK. Fall Inside. So I mean, this is one of them things where Apple thought they were doing the right thing. I mean, this is just my thoughts. They'd known Jackie Lomax since the Cavern days. He was in a band called The Undertakers. He went solo, so they signed him. You know, we'll give you a record deal. We'll get George to write your song, which he did. We'll get all these musicians to back you on this fantastic album, which they did. Jackie Lomax sings brilliant on it. The musicianship is brilliant on it. And it was basically a flop, which is a shame. It did release a couple of singles on Apple, but, you know, it's just one of them things. Why it was a flop, I'll never know. It is a fantastic album. Very rocky in parts, very soulful in parts. And then there's, you know, slightly psychedelic in parts as well. Cracking record. There's a cracking record. Doris Troy. This is, again, an American album. So this is Apple ST3371. This was produced by Doris Troy, but a lot of the songs were co-wrote with George Harrison. So side one, Ain't That Cute. Ain't That Cute. Again, should have been a massive hit. It was released as a single. Special Care. Give Me Back My Dynamite. You Tore Me Up Inside. Games People Play. Gonna Get My Baby Back. I've Got to Be Strong. Side 2. Hurry So Far. Exceedingly Little You. You Give Me Joy Joy. Don't Call Me No More, and Jacob's Ladder. Fantastic record. Very, very soulful singer. Not sure if this ever had a UK release or not. I'm sure somebody out there will say, Beatle Dave, you don't know what you're on about. Yes, it did have a UK release. It probably did, but I have never ever seen one in over 40 years. The only ones I ever see are these. I think there was a UK promo or demo version of it, but I don't know if it was ever released to the stores or not, which is a shame. Again, should have been a massive hit. This next one, a band called the Ivies, who went on to become Badfinger. Maybe Tomorrow. The Ivies' debut album. Seesaw Grandpa. Beautiful and Blue, Dear Angie, which was, I think, was released as a single. Thinking About the Good Times. Yesterday's Aren't Coming Back. Fisherman, They're Knocking Down Our Home. Side 2, Maybe Tomorrow. Solid Blue, Alangelo. I'm in Love. I've Been Waiting. No Escaping Your Love. And Her Dad Is a Millionaire. Right. Be honest with you, this isn't on Apple. It was released on Apple in Germany, Japan and Italy, I think. Never had a UK release. There's acetates of it, there's promos of it. It was never ever given a proper UK release on Apple. This is, I think this is from Germany, and it's Audio Clarity. And this is from 2020. And even to get one of these is actually quite expensive. You get one that's on Apple from, you know, Italy, Germany or Japan. I think there was only 3 countries that had it, but I'm probably wrong. And you're talking a 3-figure sum for this. Fantastic album. It really is a nice album. Why Apple never released this, I have no idea. Whether it was something to do with it, by the time this was due to be released, they changed the name to Badfinger, I don't know. The only difference between Badfinger and the Ivies is that chap there. He left. Ron Griffin. And some of these songs did appear on the Magic Christian soundtrack LP. Again, fantastic album. If you ever see one of these on Apple, try and get it. The daft thing is, when they did the Apple reissues in the 90s, I do actually think, if I remember rightly, they did actually re-release this with that catalogue, although technically this had never been released in the UK officially. Next up we've got Badfinger, No Dice. Love Badfinger. Really do love Badfinger. Side 1, I Can't Take It. I Don't Mind. Love Me Do. Yeah, Love Me Do. It's not that Love Me Do though. Midnight Caller, No Matter What, Without You. Side 2. Baldwin, Better Days, It Had to Be, Watford John, Believe Me, We're For the Dark. Produced by Jeff Emerick and produced by Mal Evans. Can't remember if this is a British version or not, to be honest. So this is a strange one because it actually opens up like that. Again, probably wouldn't get away with that nowadays, would you? Inside gatefold sleeve. I always think Badfinger, in some ways they were very, very lucky, because they were sort of, the Beatles sort of took them under the wing, didn't they, to start off with. But then when they started having the odd hit, people were just saying, but you just sound like the Beatles. Which, to be fair, a lot of the songs did sound like the Beatles, but yeah, this is a UK version, so this is Sapcore 16, and it's from 1970. It's not in exactly fantastic condition, this, but it is playable. And when you think of some of the songs that are on here, I mean, Without You, Harry Nilsson had a massive, massive worldwide hit with that, didn't he? But Badfinger never released it as a single. I think they were told not to release it as a single, if I remember rightly. Very, very underrated band in a lot of ways. Very, very sad story. If you don't know the story of Badfinger, check it out on Wikipedia and places like that. I always think Badfinger, or the story of Badfinger, would make an excellent film if it was done rightly, because they had fame in one way, and they did have a lot of chart success. They really did. Badfinger and Mary Hopkin, were apart from the Beatles, were probably the most profitable acts signed to Apple. But then through mismanagement and things like that, they basically ended up penniless. And unfortunately, 2 of the members ended up committing suicide, which is a very, very sad story. But they made some brilliant records. Every one of their LPs is fantastic and are getting rarer by the day. This next one is, again, Badfinger. This is Straight Up. This is a rare German pressing. So we've got on here, you've got Money, Flying, Suitcase, Sweet Tuesday Morning, Perfection, I'd Die Babe, Take It All, Baby Blue, Name of the Game, Day After Day, fantastic song. Sometimes and It's Over. This was produced by Todd Ruddington, but a couple of tracks were actually produced by George Harrison as well. I think George was meant to produce this album, but then he was doing the concerts of Bangladesh and things like that. So I think in the end he only did 4. He did Suitcase, I'd Die Babe, Name of the Game, and Day After Day, and even plays on Day After Day, plays slide guitar on Day After Day. Fantastic album, very, very underrated in a lot of ways. Badfinger, they really are. One of my favourite bands. Next up we have another Badfinger LP, Ass. This was released at the end of 1973, I think, and was their last album for Apple. So side 1 is Apple of My Eye, which was released as a single. Again, should have been a massive hit, didn't get anywhere. Then you've got Getaway, Icicles, The Winner, and Blind Owl. Side 2, Constitution, When I Say, Cowboy, I Can Love You, and Timeless. And this was produced by Chris Thomas, who went on to produce the Sex Pistols. Not probably one of Badfinger's best albums in a lot of ways. When this came out, they'd signed to Apple, signed from Apple to Warner Brothers, and a Warner Brothers album from Badfinger called Badfinger came out roughly the same time. So Apple didn't really promote this that much, which is a shame. Like I say, apple of my eye. If you haven't heard it, stream it. Honestly, stream it, and it won't be apple of your eye. You'll have a tear in your eye. It's such an emotional and meaningful song. It's about, they knew they had to leave Apple, and they'd been tempted by the golden carrot of Warner Brothers, and they felt like they were, you know, they thought that they were the ass being, you know, donkey on the stick sort of thing. Peter Ham didn't want to leave Apple. Tom Evans didn't want to leave Apple. The management that these had at the time signed a deal with Warner Brothers without even telling these. From what I've read, how true that is, I don't know. Their Apple Swan Song, again, very underrated. A lot of people don't like this album. It is a little bit hit and miss in places, to be honest, compared to the previous two albums, but it's a fantastic, lovely album. Like I say, Badfinger should have actually, they had the fame in one way and they had the success, but they never got the royalties until years and years and years later, when two of them had already, you know, passed away. This is the same one, and this is a South African version. Same songs and everything, same mixes. Sapcore 27 this was, by the way. And then I have this one again, which is the same album, which is a UK reissue. And the nice thing about this is it's also a promotional copy. You see that there? Like I say, I've always got a soft spot for this album. Whether it's because it was the last one that they did for Apple, or, you know, not long after this, Pete Ham, you know, died, and then a few years after that, Tom Evans took his own life because he never really got over Pete's death. I don't know. The daft thing is, if they'd got the royalties, they probably would have carried on. Okay, might not have been with Apple, but I think they would have carried on in one form or another till at least 1980. But we'll never know. I mean, in one way they did, because even after Pete Ham had died, they did try and carry on. Sometimes it was as Badfinger, sometimes they used other names as well, but it was never the same again. Then we've got Yoko Ono. Did say acts that aren't the Beatles? Well, she wasn't the Beatles, was she? Approximate Universe, Infinite Universe, Yoko Ono. This is a UK copy. I can't really tell you what it's like, because I think I've only ever played this once. I know I didn't pay a hell of a lot for it, but original copies of this are actually quite expensive now. I think this is a double LP, if I remember rightly. And Johnny's on it. This is SAPDO 1001. And you do get the words to the songs, which I'm sure you'd all like to read. Very like reminiscent of John's Imagine LP. In fact, was this released in the same year? Yeah, 1973. But that just looks like the Imagine thing, doesn't it? Exactly. It isn't John, it's Yoko. Like I say, in all fairness, I can't really tell you what it sounds like, because I can't really remember last time I played it. You know, Yoko Ono, a lot of people don't like her. Other people think she's absolutely fantastic. I'm sort of in the middle. I wouldn't say I don't like her, but I wouldn't say I do like her. I think, you know, some of the work she did with John is good, and I think some of the work she did with John isn't good. And I think some of the work she did on her own is rubbish. That's just my personal opinion. I don't say everything she's ever done is rubbish. I love Walking on Thin Ice and things like that. But, you know, this album, I know John's on it, he played guitar and things like that. But as a Beatles fan, it's probably not one that you'd really want, in my opinion. Perhaps I'm being unfair, perhaps I should, you know, listen to it, but if it's as bad as what I think it was when I did last play it, I don't mean bad as in it's rubbish as such. I played it and my dog went mad. Honestly, my dog went mad. He was running up and down and barking and everything. So I haven't played it since. Whether there's something on high frequency or something on it that made the dog do that, I don't know. But yeah, he didn't like it. Then we've got this one, another Yoko Ono one, Filling the Space, Yoko Ono Plastic Ono Band and Something Different. This is a reissue from a few years ago. Again, John has minimal involvement in this, and this one isn't actually that bad. I have played that one a couple of times and it isn't that bad. Really isn't that bad. Not saying it's great, but it's not that bad. 1, 2, 3 more to go, folks. This next one is a band called, well, it's called Brother, and it's by Lon and Derek Van Eaton. Apparently these were going to be signed, well, they were signed to Apple, and then George was going to sign them to Dark Horse as well, but I don't think that ever happened. And this is produced by Klaus Voormann. I don't think this ever got a UK release, but I could be wrong. This is an American copy. So it's Warm Woman, Sun Song, More Than Words, Hear Me Cry, Without the Lord, Sweet Music, Help Us All, Maybe There's Another, Ring, Sunshine, Another Thought, produced by Klaus Voormann, Apple SMS 3390. Sweet Music is a good song, and I think that was released as a single. Again, don't know if it was released as a single in the UK or not. 1972. I showed this year when I first started my YouTube channel, and I got absolutely slated because somebody goes, they're not brothers, they're gay. They're brothers. That's just two brothers loving one another. Not in a horrible way, you know. They're brothers. Same mother, same father. They work together, like Ray and Dave Davis, or Liam and Noel Gallagher, the brothers. Yes, that probably would have made a better front cover, I will admit. But you know, you've got to be so careful what you put on YouTube and what you say and everything like that. Unfortunately, there's always somebody that's going to knock you. And if I remember rightly, I think these did some backing vocals on a couple of George's albums as well. Like I said, I don't think this was released in the UK. Don't think it was ever released in the UK. Sweet Music, I think, was released as a single. I mean, there's quite a few things on Apple that are worth a hell of a lot of money. You've got Ronnie Spector, Try Some, Buy Some single. Virtually impossible to find. Well, it's not impossible to find. Very, very hard to find. You've got the Hot Chocolate Band, which is Hot Chocolate, the superstars of the 70s, doing a reggae version of Give Peace a Chance on single. Again, mega rare to find, mega rare to find. This was the thing with Apple Records. They were a very had a wide range of music. In fact, I think I just realised I've left a couple in there. So this is Elephant's Memory, the backing band of John and Yoko on Sometime in New York City and the one-to-one concerts. This is an original UK pressing, and this is very rare to get because it didn't sell, so it was withdrawn pretty quickly. This is Sapcore 22, and it was produced by John and Yoko. Gatefold sleeve, by the way, so that opens up like that, sorry, like that, and then that is the inside. They did go on to record a few other albums, but I think this was the only album they ever did on Apple. And like I say, this is a UK copy, which is extremely rare. I'm not saying it's worth a lot of money, but it is very hard to get. Sapcore 22, produced by John and Yoko, and it's simply called Elephant's Memory. Side one. And then side two. Great rock record, as in rock of the early 1970s. I often think they get a bit of a bad deal, these Elephant's Memory, because of the backing band on Sometime in New York City, which wasn't John and Yoko's ever greatest album, was it? But on the one-to-one concerts, or the Sometime in New York City LP, whatever you want to call it, they do shine, and they do, you know, they've got the ability to play the instruments properly, and the cover songs and everything they do. They're fantastic. Again, very underrated in some ways. This is the same one, but this is an American version. So this is SMAS 3393. I won't get it out, it's exactly the same as the UK one. Then this is probably one of the strangest ones that I've come across, because it's on Apple and it's got nothing to do with the Beatles whatsoever. Really, it's got nothing to do with Apple whatsoever, and it's an obscure film, and I think the only thing that connects it with Apple is that the film was financed or produced by Abco Films. It's a William Cash production starring Tony Anthony, Come Together. So you think Come Together by the Beatles would be on it, but it's not. Very strange film. Very strange album. Like I say, no Beatles involvement whatsoever. Side one, The Games People Play, Joe South. Great song, don't get me wrong, lovely song. Then you got Come Together, which is not the Come Together from the Beatles. Love is Blue. Monument to Love, and then Love is Blue again. Side two, Love is Blue, I Can Sing a Rainbow, sung by the Dells. Come Together again, but it's not Come Together that we all know. Love is Blue again. Bad Vibrations, Come Together, Get Together. What a strange album. And there's a lot of dialogue in between the songs on this as well, and it's not the easiest thing to listen to, put like that. It's quite rare though, to be honest. It is quite rare. Like I say, why it came out on Apple, I will never ever know. Whether the Beatles or any of the Beatles sanctioned it to come out on Apple, I don't know. Whether Alan Klein just put it out because he was running Apple, wasn't it, this time? Excuse me. Come Together, original soundtrack recording. Well, I'm not being horrible when I say this, but if the film is anything like this album, I don't want to watch the film. Again, it's one of them. I don't want to sound too hard on it because then people say, well, what you got it for? But it's not something you're going to play every day, put like that. Fantasy becomes reality in the games people play, including Games People Play by Joe South, Love is Blue, I Can Sing a Rainbow by the Dolls. Yeah, it's not to everybody's cup of tea, and being perfectly honest, it's not my cup of tea. I think I got it because I paid something like £5 or something daft. I've had it years and years and years, by the way, but I don't think, I can't remember last time I played it. Why it's on Apple, don't know. Don't know why that one's on Apple, really don't know why that's on Apple. Then we've got the Phil Spector Christmas album, which we did a feature on at Christmas, which is okay, you know, I can understand why that's on it. Then lastly, this is probably one of the weirdest albums on Apple, and this is a UK first pressing, and this was on Apple because Ringo liked it apparently, and this is John Tavener, and it's called The Whale, and it's basically an orchestral piece for an orchestra. And it sounds like it shouldn't work, but it actually does work, and it's the story of, well, when they used to do the whaling ships and stuff like that. And he did do another LP for Apple, bit of damage just there, and a little bit of damage there. Gatefold sleep, and it comes out the right side. Again, this is actually quite a hard one to find. And this is Sapcore 15, and this was released in 1970. It's not a bad album though, to be honest. You can listen to this one, and it is quite pleasant to listen to. I mean, I'm not really into orchestras and things like that, and you know, operas and things, but this is actually quite a nice record to listen to. I'm not saying it's something that I'd listen to every day, it's not. It's something that I will occasionally put on the turntable and just chill out to. It's a nice relaxing record, put like that. So that's my little non-Beatles Apple albums. I'm sure lots of you out there have got loads more of them. Will say, well, you've missed this, you've missed this, you've missed this. I said at the beginning, it's not a complete discography of the Beatles or of Apple LPs. It's just the ones I've got that aren't the Beatles. Some good albums in there, some not so good albums in there. Some albums in there I would recommend you to have. There's some albums in there that I wouldn't recommend you to have. At the end of the day, it's your money, you take your choice. I'm just being honest, there's some in there that I know I will probably very, very rarely play. I'm not saying I'd ever get rid of them, because they are part of a collection, if that makes sense. And anything on Apple nowadays is going up in price, not down in price, by the way. Especially if they are original pressings. Like I've said, even the UK repressings from the 1990s now fetch basically what the originals from the 60s do, because there was only limited runs. A lot of the British Apple releases were deleted. So, you know, like I say, Mary Hopkin, Badfinger, yeah, they did okay on Apple. To a certain extent, so did Billy Preston. Doris Troy should have been a big star with Apple. Jackie Lomax should have been a big star with Apple. If times had been slightly different, they probably would have been. But, you know, it is what it is. We can't change what's happened, can we? I think you'd call it now worldwide music or world music, wouldn't you? What Apple did, it wasn't just. I think when the Beatles said they was going to do their own record label, everybody just thought it'd be rock and pop, but they didn't. They diversified. Apparently, there was going to be an LP on Zappa, which was just somebody speaking, like speaking poetry. You know, Frank Sinatra did a one-sided single that was never ever released for Apple. David Bowie wanted to be on Apple and he wasn't. He got rejected. Fleetwood Mac was rumoured to have been on Apple at one point. Never happened. You know, there's a lot of people that could have actually been on Apple, and if they had got on it, Apple probably would have lasted a little bit longer. After about 1973, basically Apple was just an infant for the Beatles solo LPs, wasn't it? Up until end of 1975. Then it disappeared, didn't it? And then in the early 90s, when they did the anthology and stuff, Apple came back, didn't it? And it is now a proper functioning company again. And I'm glad it is. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm very, very sorry it's gone on so long. I didn't think it'd go on as long as this. But like I say, if I bored you, blame Beatle Brad, because he puts one on the other week and says, oh, artists are also on Apple. So I thought, well, that's an interesting thing to do a video on. So I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you haven't gone to sleep. I hope you haven't been too bored. I hope you like my honest opinion. And like I say, it is just my opinion of some of those records. Some are good, some aren't good. Some people wouldn't give them the time of day. But as a collection, you know, it's nice to have. So until the next time, it's Beatle Dave wishing you all peace, love and happiness. Whatever you're doing, please stay safe. And remember, you lot out there are the beat in Beatle Dave. If you're not subscribed, please think about subscribing. Hit the subscription button, and if you hit the bell, you'll get notifications. If you've liked this video, please leave me a thumbs up, because that all helps with YouTube. And if you want to leave me any comments, please do. But you know, just, you know, I'm honest. If I think something's good, I'll say it's good. If I think it's not so good, I'll say it's not so good. And if I think it, you know, in my opinion, I don't like it, I'll tell you that. Which I'm sure you all appreciate somebody being honest, don't you? So until the next time, love, peace and happiness. And remember, Beatle Dave loves you. Bye bye.